Sitting here with Dave Hargrave, who's the team leader of the Keller Williams Realty office in Medford, New Jersey. And Dave, I'm thinking about going into real estate as a career, and I'd like to ask you a few questions. Is that okay?
Sure. What do you got?
Well, I guess the first thing is to say, do I need a real estate license? And if so, how do I get one?
Well, to sell real estate in the state of New Jersey, you do have to have a real estate license. Um, the process involved with it is you got to go to real estate school. You cannot do this online. It has to be done in a classroom setting. There are numerous schools throughout the area. Some of the schools you can go Monday through Friday for 2 weeks. Some you go 2 nights a week for 10 weeks. Some have other, such as Saturday. The cost is between say 320 and 380 depending on the school, and sometimes there's coupons or discounts. Either way, you have to complete the 75-hour course and pass that course. And that's the first step in getting a license. At that point, you would then have to take a state exam to get a real estate license. Your exam is given testing centers throughout the area, but the closest one to our location is the Cherry Hill area. The test consists of about 110 questions, and you can get probably 30 of them wrong. Your best bet is, as soon as you finish the real estate class, is to go ahead and schedule your exam. It's easier to get the information back out once you've learned it than try to relearn it again by waiting to take the test. You have 1 year to pass the test. You can take it as many times as necessary. Statistically, I hear about 60% of people pass it the first time, but that doesn't really mean that you're going to be successful in real estate. So once again, take it. Some people haven't been in school for a long time, and it could be a little scary taking the test. But I just tell you that you don't have to tell people how many times you took it to pass it. And if you really want to get this, you can get it done. And I can give you some tips later on as to helping you pass that test.
Well, okay, so now I've passed the test and the ink is still wet on my new New Jersey real estate license. What should I expect to have to pay on an annual basis to do business as a real estate agent?
Well, let me try to answer that question, but let me first go through a couple more costs that you're going to have even before we can get you licensed. Once you have to take the state exam, I didn't mention it costs $45 every time you take it. As I did say, you can take a whole year to pass it. You take it as many times as you want within that year, but if you pass it the first time, it's just $45. Your fingerprints, which will have to be done, and there's a state police background check that every real estate agent has to go through, and it doesn't matter whether you're fingerprinted for another occasion, such as a police officer or a teacher, you still have to get it done. The cost of that's about $70 to get it done. So once you have your application, which is your pass notice when you took the test, your fingerprints, and a check for $160 to the state treasurer, then you can be licensed as a real estate agent. Until that you've gotten those things in place, you don't have to choose your broker. You still have plenty of time to do that. And then you'll go to the next step of choosing a broker. So your question was, what would it cost to be a real estate agent on an annual basis? I'm going to give you kind of a generalized figure because some of the things you'll want, some of the things you need, and there's some options in here. So we start by saying roughly between $2,500 and $3,000 a year to be a real estate agent. Before you panic, it's not a check you write once a year for $3,000 to start being a real estate agent, but there will be costs that come up through the year. The main costs are you're going to have to join a board of realtors, which would make you a member of the State and National Association of Realtors, as most real estate agents in this area are realtors. And you'll find out in school there's a difference between a realtor and a real estate agent. The other issue that you're going to have to consider is that you're going to have to join the multiple listing service. Our multiple listing service, the cost is roughly $400 a year. And I should mention it was $500 to join the National Association. I am rounding these figures off, so don't quote me exact numbers. So the multiple listing service gives us the information that the public isn't privy to. Much more detailed information about what house is sold, what they sold for, how long they were on the market, how to set appointments up, and numerous other information that real estate agents use to help buyers and sellers obtain properties. We have electronic lock boxes on most of the properties in South Jersey, which is, I assume I'm speaking to most of you in South Jersey. Electronic lock boxes are called super boxes, and to be able to enter a property, you would have to have an app on your phone called a Super Key app. The cost of that is roughly $200 a year. It's actually $18 a month that you pay it. and that is allows you to open that box. And when you do that, it registers that you were the one that entered that, sends a signal to the cloud so that the real estate agent who has a listing would know that you were entered the property at that time. They are the three things you pay to outside vendors. All real estate companies do charge errors and omissions. It's like malpractice insurance for doctors, and it varies from company to company. It roughly is between $400 and $800 a year, depending on which company, and it can be paid either in a lump sum. Some companies charge it annually in a lump sum. You write a check out for the full amount. Other companies charge it per month. Keller Williams, who I'm associated with, does charge it monthly. And then there are other companies that charge it transactionally. So in other words, when you sell a house, they'll take a certain portion of that transaction to pay for errors and omissions insurance. But those four things are unavoidable as far as I can tell. Now, I did say it was about $2,500. Let me kind of explain some of the other things that might be involved. We would say that they're optional, but optional in the sense that you really do need them. We live in a world now where everybody has cell phones, and I would tell you that I lived in a world where they didn't, so I know that you don't have to have a cell phone to survive. But the truth of the matter, the things I'm about to talk about, are things that you're going to want to have as a real estate agent. You're going to want a website so people can check you out and make sure that you are a legitimate real estate agent. You're going to need a contact management system, which is the lifeblood of all real estate agents. To people that you know that you know when last time you spoke to them, you know who is in your database. Other things, we are more of a technology-based industry anymore, so we have cloud-based systems. You need document storage online, tech support, websites, as I mentioned, and there's various other things, business cards, signs. All these add up to maybe 1,000 or so a year. They could be a lot more, and I didn't include advertising in there. But that's the things that you're probably going to need on a regular basis. So the big picture is, be a real estate agent, budget anywhere from $2,500 to $3,000 a year, even if you don't sell a house.
But I assume if I am a real estate agent, these are business expenses that I can take as a tax deduction every year.
They are all tax deductible. Now, I'm not a tax expert, but I have been in real estate for 24 years, so I do know that there are a lot of write-offs, even part of your personal house, that you can write off if you use it for business, and there's many other write-offs you have. Your vehicle, for instance. I would suggest that you check with a tax expert if you want detailed information on that. But yes, there's a lot of expenses that you can take off of your income.
Well, Dave, when I sold my house, I had to pick a real estate broker just one time. But now I'm thinking of this as a career. I have to choose the right real estate broker for the rest of my life. What should I consider when choosing the right real estate broker to affiliate with?
Well, it's a great question. First of all, let me point out, as far as the public is concerned, real estate companies are real estate companies. We all do the same thing. As far as they're concerned, there's no real difference between one company and another. There are, but from the public's point of view, if they've heard of the company, they pretty much figure you're going to sell their house, and that's really the important thing. There is differences for you as an agent as to which real estate company you choose. Some real estate companies have very little training. Some companies have a lot more. If I were to list the most important things to consider when choosing a real estate company, I would look at training as the most important. That's the foundation that your business is going to be built on. Compensation is very important. I'm not dismissing that. But no matter what your commission split is, if you don't sell any houses, it really won't matter what your split is. You may not understand how a real estate agent gets paid. I would be happy to explain that to you in person if we talk together. But trust me when I say that your compensation is important, but it's second to education. Learning to be a real estate agent is the most important thing you need to consider when picking a real estate company.
Well, you've really piqued my interest with the talk of compensation. So tell me, Dave, what should I expect to earn as a real estate agent?
Well, it's a question I hear all the time, and it's very difficult for me to give you an exact answer on that. Let me start by saying the median income of a real estate agent, the last I heard, was $37,000. But don't let that fool you. There are agents who make well in excess of that. We have agents in this company making $1 million a year. And just like every other company, we have agents who don't make any money. So if you use 37 as a median, I guess that's a good place to start. A lot of it has to do with how much you put into it is how much you'll get out of it. Real estate is not for everybody. There are unfortunate statistics that when you look at people who go to real estate school, only about 20% of the agents in real estate school actually wind up being a real estate agent or stay in a real estate business. That means 80% of them decide it's just not for them once they've gone to real estate school or if shortly after they get their license. How much you earn, what we would hope for you. There's a principle called the Pareto principle that talks about the 80-20 rule. You might have heard it referred to that, where simply says that 20% of the agents are doing 80% of the business. So you don't have to be a math wizard to figure out that the other 80% of those agents are fighting over the 20% of scraps that are left over. The key is to be in the top 20%, and our goal here at Keller Williams is to try to get you into that top 20% so that you're in the bulk of the producers in the office. Now, obviously, not everybody can be there, but there's plenty of room for you to make a reasonable income, even if you're not in the top 20%. There's a lot of training here to help you grow your business, which is one of the reasons I'm with Keller Williams.
Well, I have a question. I was having lunch at the diner the other day, and the waitress told me that she is a part-time waitress and part-time real estate agent. Could I work part-time as a realtor?
Yeah, we have agents who are what I call dual career agents. I would suggest if you decide to get in real estate and continue with your existing job, which many agents do, and then transition in, but it's not a requirement that you transition in. But I would stop thinking of myself as a part-time real estate agent and think of myself as what I would call as a dual career agent, somebody who does two jobs. I myself, when I got into this business years ago, I had a construction company, and I continued in my construction company for a couple of years. The issue with being an agent who has another job is this is a full-time job as far as the mental aspects of being this. If you're working another job, you're thinking about other things, and you're distracted from both your existing job and being a successful real estate agent. So for me, when my real estate career took off, it was when I gave up my other job and I did this full time. But we do have many successful agents who make a living and have a job outside of real estate.
Well, I'm really motivated. This sounds really interesting. What should I do next?
Well, here's what I would suggest for you, Dave. If you are going to go to real estate school, you're going to have to pick the school. I would pick it based on the location of the school, how it fits into your schedule, whether you can do it for 2 weeks straight or you have to take it 2 nights a week for 10 weeks. I think a dreadful way to do it is every Saturday for 10 weeks all day, but that's a personal decision on your part. So I'd look for real estate schools that fit your needs. The cost, as I mentioned, only varies $50 or $60. The curriculum is all the same. There's a book that they teach from. The state test that you're going to eventually take is the same regardless of which school you go to. I myself have an instructor's license, so I'm kind of familiar with the process. So I can help you, guide you to what school might fit your particular schedule the best if you were to contact me.
Well, I know you only had a few minutes to talk today, but I really would like to pursue real estate as a career. So is it possible for me to make an appointment with you and sit down and just talk about what Keller Williams has to offer, what the Keller Williams difference is, and maybe how I could even have somebody mentor me to get my career jump-started?
Absolutely. What I would suggest we do at this point, there's a lot more I would need to explain to you that you have, I'm sure, other questions. That we set up an appointment, we'll sit down, take about an hour to go through the whole process with you, and I'll go into a lot more detail about what Keller Williams has to offer, why I believe Keller Williams is a better choice for most real estate agents. But regardless of that, real estate is a great opportunity. You get to meet interesting people, you help them, and they pay you for it. There's really not much easier way to make a living. I jokingly tell my wife the other thing about being a real estate agent is I make my own hours, and she looks at me and says, yeah, but so what, you work them all anyway? And I simply say, yeah, but I choose to work them. As a real estate agent, you are your own boss, and that really is an advantage for some people if you can keep yourself focused enough to do what's necessary to be a successful real estate agent. So please call me. You can reach me at 609-654-5656, and I'd be happy to set up an appointment to talk to you in more detail about what's involved in getting a real estate license.
I really appreciate the time. Thanks so much. I'm looking forward to a real estate career.
Well, thanks for taking the time to talk with me.